I'm the Associate Director of our People and Organisational Advisory Service, and it's my pleasure to welcome you and host our webinar today, Artificial Intelligence from Hype to Reality. As with all our meetings and webinars, I will start with an acknowledgement of country. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I also acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands across Australia where you are joining us remotely today. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and recognise their continuing culture and connection to country. I also would like to extend a warm welcome to our international guests joining us today. So thank you for giving up your time. We are going to spend about 35 to 40 minutes with you today. We do have a jam-packed agenda. We would like to highlight to you and take you on the journey beyond the hype and share some context in the current Australian market. We'd also like to share with you what our executives across the world and in Australia are saying about AI from our C-Suite Survey Barometer 2026. We will also take you through some group conversations. Joining us for the employee experience will be Greg Halse, looking at AI through data and reporting with Simon Thompson, and looking at AI from a finance and payroll perspective with Jonathan Shikudo. And I will take some time to introduce our group hosts later on in our webinar. And then we will also look in conversation, we will answer your questions, and we thank you in advance for submitting your questions to us here in the webinar. And we will finish with how we can help you at Forvis Mazars in your AI adoption. So let's kick off. Looking at beyond the hype and some context in the Australian market. If we think of disruption, disruption is very hard to predict. Might take you back to the time, if a few of you that are on the call today, when you remember when ATMs were first introduced. The fear around the world was that bank tellers were going to lose their jobs. Well, one thing history has taught us is that we know is bank tellers didn't lose all their jobs. They have evolved, they are still around, but they have become customer service providers in many banks branches worldwide. For decades in the workplace, we've invested in adopting technology, but business outcomes have lagged and productivity has slowed. Looking at our timeline, emails first introduced in the 1990s, fast forward to the 2000s, mobile phones and SMS, and right up to now, 2020s, where AI-assisted work and automation are present in our workplaces. Looking at that timeline running alongside productivity, it's fair to say productivity has slowed. The hype versus the actual reality gap is quite large. In our market today, ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, Gemini are just some of the new agents, and our technology is moving really fast. We believe optimism and resilience will be the key on your adoption journey. We take a look now at the AI hype versus reality in the workplace. Looking at hype, what we do know is that the hype out there is full job automation, AI has perfect decision making, and AI understands all business context, and we're seeing great productivity gains. Our expectations, what we are hearing and what we're talking about is AI will replace most roles. AI decisions are always correct, and AI eliminates the need for expertise. And employees will naturally adopt to AI, and the technology alone will deliver on its ROI. But our absolute reality of where we're at today is slightly different. We can see that AI augments tasks, not entire jobs. It does support humans. It doesn't replace our judgment. It may excel at pattern recognition and summarization, but it improves speed and not human accountability. It requires process change and capability building in your AI adoption. Looking at now at some recent statistics in Australia, individual adoption of AI has actually stagnated in the past 2 years if we're looking retrospectively from 2024 to 2025, as you can see on the stats there. Most AI efforts remain fragmented pilots rather than enterprise capability. I heard a great quote recently. If AI is not part of your business plan or your job design, then it's simply just a toy you're playing with in the workplace. Think about it. Your competitor is probably already adopting AI and training their staff as we speak. In Australian culture, we're quite risk adverse, and most of the organisations at the moment aren't training their employees on using AI, which creates unaffordability, and we're often disappointed by the results. At Forvis Mazars, what we are seeing in the market is confirmation bias happening out there, a preconceived notion that AI is here, but it won't really do anything for me. A lot of organizations, and I'm sure many of you on the call today, may have already opted for your free AI option or low cost options. Others are already out there spending some dollars, doing some safe experimentation to suit their business. Try it. If it fails, you'll then know it wasn't right for you. Digital exhaustion is also real if we're looking at the current Australian market, according to the State of AI at Work from Asana. Many of your employees, I'm sure, are experiencing digital exhaustion, unmanageable workloads, and perhaps employees are feeling leaders aren't doing enough to help reduce digital exhaustion. If you think about it though, digital exhaustion is real, and the stats there that you can see in front of you tell that story, but it's also a threat to your talent retention. Let's look at it perhaps from a different angle. Automation isn't the threat, our human comfort zone is. Human behaviors and people tend to cling to process work because it feels safe and measurable. The people who are going to thrive in this AI journey from hype to reality are the ones who've stopped waiting for someone to tell them to evolve. Some interesting facts and data there. Now, we're taking you through, probably at speed, at our C-Suite Barometer Outlook. At the end of 2025, Forvis Mazars collected the views of C-Suite executives from around the world for our 6th annual C-Suite Barometer. With insights from our largest sample yet, over 3,000 executives across 40 countries, which included Australia. If we move on to the stats now, AI implementation is seen as the greatest opportunity. Executives' reports are now more saying that AI is creating more stimulating job creation than job replacement. Whilst AI is top of the C-suite agenda, individuals and teams across businesses are spontaneously using AI to help them in their jobs. Data security is a key part of AI and the tech transition, and rightly recognizing by its leaders is a crucial investment. And we look through the stats there. If we can just move to the next slide. Thank you very much, Lara. Lovely. Let's look a little closer to home now in Australia and what our C-suite are saying. Sorry, if you just go back one slide. Thank you. That's great. Thank you so much. Looking at closer at home, 70% of leaders in Australia confirm that AI is having a major impact on their company. AI adoption is high across Australia, with 70% using it to improve creativity and 74% cyber security and 52% operational optimization. 75% of business leaders surveyed have already restructured their teams to implement AI. And 33% claim their businesses is fully equipped and ready to adapt its strategy in response to the pace of future AI developments. So it is really interesting to see what our executives are saying in Australia. It's time now for us today to speak to some experts and senior leaders in their field. We're very fortunate today to have our experts. I'd like to firstly introduce you to Greg House, who is the partner at People and Organisation Advisory at Forvis Mazars, and also Simon Thompson, who is the Head of Commercial at Everperform, Data and Reporting, and Jonathan Chikudo, who's partner of Forvis Mazars, will be taking you through finance and payroll. These group conversations will be about 4 to 5 minutes, and we will hear from each of the experts. But first, my pleasure to introduce you to Greg, who is looking at AI through the employee experience. Thank you, Greg.
Good afternoon, all, and thanks for your time. When we think about AI from an employee experience perspective, we're fundamentally focused on two important foundational questions. And that first question is is AI genuinely being positioned in service of the strategic priorities of the organization? Because it can often just become a tech play where AI is being deployed everywhere, but it's not really aligned to the strategic priorities of the organization and the organization's reason for being. So things like margin improvement, innovation, customer intimacy. So the first question we ask is the business clear about those strategic priorities, and are we aligning every effort to those strategic priorities? Then the second question we ask is, how are our employees really going to experience this changed operating model? And if we do this well and they're above the line and they see it as a positive growth experience, that's all well and good. But if it falls below the line and people are fearful, there's a lot of self-interest about it, silos get increased, well, then the culture of the organization could easily eat your AI efforts for breakfast. So just like culture used to eat strategy for breakfast, I'm concerned that if we don't do AI well with a lot of thinking, AI could the AI could be in trouble if our culture isn't supported. Once we've got those foundational questions in place, we then encourage our clients to really look at three areas of work and to work on these three buckets I've identified in the slide. One is about the architecture of the organization. The other is about building the muscle, the human capability of the people in the organization. And then the third bucket is making sure our leadership and our culture is supporting the AI effort. So in terms of the architecture, the org design of an organization really needs to be reviewed, because AI is built for a place where information is everywhere all at once. So the old traditional organization structures where you had the old hierarchy and knowledge was sitting at the top of the organization. In the new world, information is going to be everywhere all at once. And so information and knowledge is not the power source anymore that it used to be. So we are going to need to structure our organizations differently. It'll be about orchestrating decisions differently. It'll be about managing ambiguity. It'll be about defining problems differently and almost allocating decision-making and responsibilities differently. So we've heard about the triangle-shaped organizations, and now I think organizations are almost becoming diamond-shaped, in the sense that the bottom of organizations are narrowing, but the middle part of the organizations are really growing. Because we believe if we get this right, there'll be an increase in demand for human expertise. The next part is really about the job design. It's not just about automating tasks and fixing the automation of tasks. It really should be about us uncovering where the human value is in each job. So each job has a human element to it, and that's where the margin can be found in the future. So it's about working through every job and designing it and reviewing it differently. The second bucket is really the human capability. So how do we build higher order cognitive thinking and build a new muscle for this new world? There was an analogy that I saw the other day which explained that the change that we're going through is similar to when the printing press was invented in 1440. So in the old days, only the elite could read, and when the printing press was developed in the 1400s, it suddenly democratized the need for literacy, or the need for reading, and people needed to learn different skills pretty quickly, otherwise they fell away. And we're saying the same thing here. Our skills are going to need to move up the ladder through to things like learning faster, being braver, being more resilient, having more judgment and critical thinking. So we are really saying do some more work in supporting our employees with their capabilities. And finally, in the leadership and culture bucket, we're asking our clients to think about how they are describing their vision and their future of AI in their organization. Are they building leadership opportunities for people who haven't been used to leading before? Because leadership is going to start emerging in all parts of the organization. And are we trying to encourage a culture of sharing innovation, sharing wins, sharing challenges? So the culture is going to be the fundamental thing to support an AI intervention. Once we have those three principles in place, you can then move to designing the agents, redoing workflows, begin connecting decisions across silos, and that's when productivity and long-term business results will start flowing. That's what I've got to say. Thanks, Anthony.
Terrific. Thank you, Greg. And thanks for sharing those the employee experience from your perspective. Greg, don't go away. We will be coming back to you with some great questions that we've had from our clients ready for the webinar. Okay, we're now going to introduce you to Simon Thompson. Simon is the head of commercial at Everperform. At Forvis Mazars, People and Organisational Advisory, we work in partnership with Everperform to power our data and insights for clients. Simon is now going to take you through looking at the benefits of using AI in the data and reporting stream. Welcome, Simon. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much, Anthony, and Greg as well before. I'm really happy to be here today. Just taking on the journey through, the immense amount of data we now see in organisations and how AI can be used to generate insight and reporting through that. And, we've all seen the impact of what AI can produce over the last few years, good, bad, and sometimes humorous. But I wanted to spend a few moments to start with the key implications of preparing data and having data AI ready. If the slide that we've got here, basically let's start with what good looks like. I think one of the things organisations are still trying to organise is the architecture with which how they approach giving AI access to data. I think it's very important that setting up a data management process which ensures that your proprietary or private data or employee data is not used to train LLMs is a really important element. I think it's a really useful thing to have AI residency in Australia. So having your data retained in Australia is really a great strategy. Making sure you've got your encryptions end to end. And that there's multiple ways to address managing that privacy, which we'll cover off in a couple of moments as well as an example. Making sure you're using the correct types of AI models. They're not all the same. So, we're all familiar with the names of OpenAI and Claude and Gemini and Copilot. But there's very big differences between the privacy and the service level agreements with the different tiers of those platforms. And it's really important to be aware of that and to make accommodation and education in your organisation so that people know. We are hearing things. We do a bit of work in the defence and high sort of critical areas, and some of the things in the absence of tools, people are putting pretty confidential information into general ChatGPT models, and I think we all need to prepare for that and make sure that we don't enable that to happen. And also making sure that when you have AI put across private content, that it's properly de-identified. So this example here is a bit of an example about how Everperform has put in place mitigations. So we've got a secure cloud instance that we have. Essentially, it's like an Amazon AWS S3 cloud. And as we go through preparing that data for processing and enhancing by AI, the data is collected. We organise that data into a structure that's really efficient and effective, so that it reduces the consumption of token usage and other costs, which are growing very quickly. Then we anonymise or we de-identify the data before we ever send it out for AI to be processing. So before any model looks at that, it's never used. By agreement, we ensure that no commercial, no proprietary data or personal data is used to train or enhance or retain within the model. Very important delineation there. So basically, at that point, we tokenise those details and put them out so that really it's only the context that then the AI model applies its information to. And then as we bring that back in, that analysis is returned back to our instance and then re-identified. So there's really no point at which that information, the tokens that actually do that, is all managed securely inside our instance, and that never leaves our own platform. So emulating some of those techniques, I think, for your own business, depending on the context that you operate within, is really useful. Things to avoid, obviously, is consumer grade AI plans. avoid residency outside of Australia, particularly if you're dealing with, a lot of sensitive client data or confidential data. And making sure you don't do, like, there's a lot of integrations at the moment, and giving carte blanche access to AI is a really risky space. So having really good data architecture is a really great place to start before you think about the benefits of what AI can do and enhance your insights and reporting. So if I can go to the next slide, please. So as Anthony said, we work with Forvis Mazars to capture a lot of information and insights from organisations and process that into recommendations in conjunction with Forvis Mazars. A lot of times that involves a lot of individual points of data. Sometimes with some organisations, we've got everything from subjective data about participation in things like pulse surveys or feedback, or information about, obviously, a really poignant one at the moment is psychosocial safety risk signals that may exist within the organisation. Oftentimes we then put that across with a lot of objective data that comes out of practice management software, time billing, information utilisation reports, etc., employee-related data related to leave, etc. And then oftentimes it's also organisational context, things like structures of organisation, so we can see where different aggregations take place within teams or service lines or other types of business groupings, locations, as well as another common one. Through the processes we had on the first slide, we have this ability with AI to create an enormous amount of very fast, very effective combinations of data sets from across organisations. The typical issues that we've faced over the last decades has been not an absence of data, but oftentimes data is collected inside silos inside the organisation that are sometimes hard to access, or sometimes are held by particular individuals that then there need to be requests through, etc., to access. As those barriers come down and we start to open data up, and we give the ability for tools in AI to report and consolidate that data into useful and meaningful content, this is a really powerful tool. With some of the things that we do with executive reports and insights to basically take the noise away for executives, give them insight related to the key elements of the business that they need, highlight elements of risk. We might give managers, for example, cues about what's happening in their teams, support that may be needed, capturing records of activities in a really automated and simple way, so that a lot of the time-consuming or laborious tasks are mitigated. Also, to make sure that when users are accessing platforms or information, that we really deliver to them things that are relevant to them at the time, and we use things like dashboards, benchmarking information, and risk reports. Really, as much as you can think about, if you've got a set of data and combinations of different workflows and operational needs for organisations, there can be AI can be applied to those data sets to give really salient, really clear information that's actionable. And what that comes back to, just as Greg was saying, is that it's all about equipping the human in the loop to making sure that the path to decision and action is made as smoothly and effectively and clearly as possible, and that some of the things that are often avoided are not no longer become hurdles. So things like heavy data management to get the insights, obviously AI can really mitigate a lot of that and automate the process of a lot of those what can be quite laborious things. A really significant enhancement on what we used to be able to do with things like Power BI and tools like that. This also gives us the ability to have speed and depth of analysis, so we can look more broadly, we can look more quickly and move from trying to understand into action more swiftly. As I said before, reducing noise is really key. And then more time for deciding and aligning and working with people rather than compiling reports and those sorts of activities. As I said before, reduce data silos and also on-demand insight. So, oftentimes we are trying to serve data out to decision makers, leaders in the organisation, so that the information is ready for them when they need it, and it's relevant and current as at that time. And so there are a lot of the insights that we've got from that process.
Terrific, Simon, and thank you for sharing those. We do have some great questions from our clients that have joined us today, so stand by. We will come back to you. Speaking to our next expert, we're really pleased today to have Jonathan Chicuto, our partner, finance and payroll, who's going to be taking you through his thoughts. Jonathan, welcome.
Thanks, Anthony, and good afternoon, everyone. So, as Anthony said, I'm here to talk about finance and payroll with AI. And this slide really summarizes four points. So what changes, what doesn't change, where AI adds real value, and the guardrails required to use it effectively. If I had to boil it down to one message, it's the statement at the top of the slide, which is AI prepares the work, humans decide and remain accountable. One of the biggest misconceptions about AI is that it's replacing people. But in reality, what we're seeing is roles are actually evolving. So people are spending less time preparing information, chasing data, completing repetitive tasks, and writing first drafts. They're spending more time reviewing information, challenging outcomes, managing expectations, and applying judgment where it really matters. What AI is changing is how work gets prepared. So it can help draft information, explain complex topics, identify exceptions, complete repetitive tasks, and turn large amounts of data into something useful much, much faster than we could do manually. What AI is not changing is accountability. So someone still owns payroll accuracy. Someone still approves payments. Someone still signs off tax positions. Someone still has to explain to employees, regulators, owners, and boards. And responsibility does not transfer to the technology simply because AI helped prepare the work. The organizations getting the most value from AI today aren't replacing finance and payroll professionals. They're using AI to help free them up to focus on higher value work. But for this to happen, the foundations still matter. Clear processes, quality data, defined ownership, governance, and review points remain essential. What we see is AI tends to accelerate what already exists. So if the process is good, it helps. If the process is broken, it usually exposes the problem much faster. So the key message again is simple: AI prepares the work, humans decide and remain accountable. Jump to the next slide. So recently we ran a similar session for a group of clients in our Melbourne office and asked a very simple question. What would you be comfortable letting AI do today? The results are shown on this slide. What I find most interesting isn't necessarily the percentages themselves, it's the pattern. 93% were comfortable with AI creating a first draft. 87% were comfortable with AI helping explain information. 80% were comfortable with AI supporting calculations and structured analysis. But when it came to approval, that dropped to a mere 3%. And honestly, I think that's kind of where it should be. The poll really reinforced the message from the previous slide, which is, people are increasingly comfortable with AI preparing the work, but they still want humans to make the final decisions. So again, AI can draft, AI can explain, AI can calculate, but people still approve. For me, that's what a successful AI adoption looks like. Not replacing people, but helping people spend less time on preparation and more time applying judgment, supporting employees and making better decisions. And that's why I think the future of finance and payroll isn't AI replacing people. It's people using AI to become faster, more informed, and more effective while retaining accountability for the outcome. Thanks, Anthony.
Terrific. Thanks, Jonathan, for sharing that with us. We're conscious of time. We want to keep everyone on time today, but we do have a set of fantastic questions that our clients have sent through, so we thank you for those. We're going to bring the group together now to put the spotlight on them, but also to get them to share their answers to your questions that you've asked. And if there is time, we will jump into the live chat if we have enough time to take a couple of more questions. My first question, it's a very straightforward one. What is AI's compatibility with Xero? And I think, Jonathan, you're probably the person best equipped to answer that one.
Yes, that's probably my domain.
That's your domain.
Well, I think Xero is actually really well positioned when it comes to AI because has an open ecosystem and API capabilities. And it really means that businesses don't have to replace Xero to take advantage of AI. They can continue using Xero as their core finance function and their platform and connect specialist tools. And you can add a Dext in there, or you can add many other tools that speak to Xero because of their open API capabilities. And that helps with reporting solutions and really suits individual particular needs of businesses that, one large ERP system may have otherwise been required in the past. Xero itself already has some AI-driven features built in. You've got your transaction matching, bill captures, all of those things that help reduce that manual processing already, and their continual investment in the software itself, developing additional AI capabilities, which is a watch this space in the future. So I really don't think Xero is a barrier for AI adoption. I think in many ways it's probably an enabler. But what I would say is my views really is that AI won't replace accountants using Xero, but accountants using AI and Xero will outperform the ones that don't.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan, for your answer. I've got quite a great question, but it's a long question, so I'll break it down a couple of parts. And this one will go to you, Simon, give you a couple of seconds there to think of your answers. For detailed technical research, analysis, and drafting of opinions or responses, the general LLMs, Copilot, ChatGPT, produce poor results. That is largely because they do not know where to dig, or they do not dig deep enough, and so hallucinate when they cannot answer the question. Simon, have we identified the cutting-edge AI sources suitable for each work discipline and begin to seek pricing for our teams?
Wow, that's a broad one.
It's a broad one. It's a good one. It's a broad one.
So I think there's quite a few different elements in that. I think as you were speaking about very early, Anthony, is that there is a race of this evolution of the LLMs, the language models, and they're growing really fast, and it's pretty amazing how quickly that's growing. One of the biggest challenges that we face when we're talking about AI and how to apply those language models is, they are bound to hallucinate when we apply them to inadequate context. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we ask of AI sometimes, where people are, looking for a creative a response. Well, that's fine, and you will get a creative response from that. But when you're looking for a very specific response, and one that's particularly required from a regulatory or compliance perspective, we need that to be very specific, and that's where the context and also the guardrails, as Jonathan was saying, that we apply for the AI. So not really a cop out in a way, but to say, the reality is that the language models are changing quickly and they're all trying to keep up. So which one, I don't think that's going to be a permanent answer. So to answer that specifically, yes, maybe Claude at the moment might be the one that's evolved very quickly, but that's a moving space. The reality is that there's the architecture that you establish and the guardrails that you establish are at least as important as the model. And then also, giving guidelines and training skills for the agents that you're asking to process that, about where to look to for validation and for confirmation of compliance or those elements are very important. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. And when it comes to pricing, the thing I would say about pricing, one of the things I think we've all learned is that the lower price, more consumer level, or even low professional level tools generally come with the uncertainty about the treatment or the training of the LLM. Oftentimes, a part of that pricing is built around the LLM learning from your data. When you go into more enterprise grade and higher grade subscriptions and agreements, where there's service level agreements that give you greater privacy, I think it's something that's very warranted in this context.
Terrific. Thanks, Simon. Thanks for taking that big, broad question for us as well. Thank you. Our next question from one of our clients that says, anyone in your team conducted a comparison of the costs associated with using an AI agent or many AI agents versus the cost and compliance obligations of an FTE human? And I think, Greg, this is one for you.
It's a strange one with that, because we really we try to dive into that and found that the goalposts of costs are moving so quickly, and so any predictions that agents are going to be so much cheaper than FTEs and therefore just go ahead with agents made us feel like this was a too difficult a question to answer. There's no doubt that agents will fundamentally be very cheap at the end of the day, but an FTE will always add more value. I like the description the other day that AI is trained on what has been done. So AI can help you on the stuff that has been done, what's out there, but humans see and decide what needs to be done in the future. So the value that you have from a human being thinking about, well, what am I going to be doing next? How am I going to connect with things? What are my options here? Will always provide more value than just seeing it as an FTE versus an agent. Agent is good at doing the automation stuff, but where you truly add value is your connection with your clients, and you bring the human capability in there. So I don't think it's a net sum game in that sense. It's really about saying humans will always be more valuable at the end of the day.
Great. Thank you, Greg, for answering that one. We've just got a couple of more questions so that we do finish everyone on time today. Next question is it possible to detect AI involvement in creation of documents, reports, or databases? I'm looking at you, Simon, for this one. If you can give us a quick answer, if you can. Thanks.
Look, I think, again, these things are evolving quickly. A lot of people's efforts to try and mask that are evolving very quickly. There's a whole bunch of technologies that you can wash AI-generated content through to remove trackers and pixels and identifiable elements. So, yeah, I think if anyone out there is studying and is looking for advice on how to get their exam papers passed through quicker, well, probably not. I'm not the best person to ask, but I would say, yes, it's a moving space. So, yeah.
Moving space. Okay, thanks, Simon. Next question, how do I make the right choice, and what would you recommend is the best way to implement AI into a mid-sized business? I think that's a mixture of Greg and maybe Simon, if you can both answer that one.
Really, firstly, decide why you're doing this. Is it just for a technical reason, or is this a business priority reason? And really be clear on those business priorities and move your thinking upstream. Understand why we're doing it for our strategic reasons of this is why it's important. So I think that's the most important thing, and have that clarity around the whole organization. So we're doing AI to, for example, improve margin. We're doing AI, for example, to improve our customer service, so that you get the language and the intent and everyone on the same page is really crucial. And then keep it upbeat. This is going to be a fun exploration and a journey of fun and a journey of growth. And we're convinced that if you go on this journey, you'll really grow yourself as a human being. You'll be ready to tackle the future. And so, your leadership around and your language around AI and how fantastic it can be for us will be so important.
Right. Anything to add there, Simon?
I agree with all of that. I think reinforcing that from it would be to say anything that can alleviate humans from doing things that take a lot of time unnecessarily, that could be spent with other people deciding, aligning, and acting. I think there's consideration for that should be given.
Terrific. We've got time for one last question, and from one of our clients has asked, what are the benefits you are seeing in using AI to support payroll? And Jonathan, that's over to you again.
Yes, that's me. So payroll's an interesting one. I actually think that this is probably where we're seeing a huge amount of value at the moment, and being rolled out pretty quickly across a lot of organizations. Payroll is notorious for a huge amount of processing, and most of it's repetitive tasks, and so eliminating a lot of that early processing work is extremely helpful for the things that take a tremendous amount of time, which is answering employee queries, trying to understand exceptions from the previous payroll, and all of those things. So we're seeing quite a lot of manual processing time being removed from that situation, which helps the payroll teams do, again, more value-added work. And I've also seen it do some great things in summaries. There's the 1st of July rolls around every year and the award rates change. So, getting a summary of all of the changes in the awards for that specific award or multiple awards, what's the minimum rate here? All of those things are extremely helpful in getting a really quick summary on the things that you may need to be aware of that's changing in your organization. So yeah, payroll's certainly one to make sure that your organization's starting to do things in AI, certainly.
Terrific. Thanks, Jonathan. And thank you, gentlemen, for answering all the questions. In wrapping up, here at Forvis Mazars, we are here to help you with your AI journey. In the current state, I know we've spoken that many of us are just having a play with AI and others are already adopting into their business models. At Forvis Mazars, we have developed an AI roadmap to support our clients on their journey with a simple 4-step AI roadmap. We will be more than happy to share that with you. We are offering today a 30-minute complimentary business consultation for any of our clients. With that support is change management advice, particularly on your AI adoption into transformation, but also supporting the people side with their AI roadmap. You can simply register for a complimentary AI consultation by scanning the I'll say that again, the QR code at the bottom of your screen there. And also you can visit our fantastic Forvis Mazars AI Impact Hub at our website. We also have digital transformation experts as part of our client global offering. So we are here to help you on the people and the technology side. We thank you today for joining us, and we appreciate your questions. And if we can help in any way, please reach out to us via our website. And one thing we've learned on this journey of separating the hype from reality is that the future of work really is AI plus humans. Thanks for joining us. Have a great afternoon.